Hey, you cannot fight the spirit. When you just get this inclination to do something, you gotta act on it. So here I am. I'm in the black lava rocks near my house, and I was out for my morning jog and stop to breathe. And I just had this impression that I ought to jump on here. So here's what was going through my mind. How to break free of the chains that bind you. How do you get over the wounds? How do you stop hurting? How do you stop hurting yourself? How do you stop hurting others? How do you get beyond this falling in the pitfalls of emotional wounds? How do you do that? Well, first of all, let's just say it's by trial and error. For sure. 1000%. Like, if you keep falling in the same hole, at some point it's going to come into your awareness to walk around the hole. It's like, why would we still fall in the same hole? Yet we do. Like, that's what emotional trauma looks like. It's like I keep falling in the same hole and I'm really mad about it. So if you are falling in the same hole, here's what you need to remember. That hole is here to remind me that I would rather walk around it. I would rather go beyond it. I would rather do something other than fall in it. Our wounds are it's the learning lesson we're here to transcend. So whoever you're with, like, oftentimes our relationships are specifically to help us heal a wound. Like, they are attached to an emotional event that triggers our nervous system to feel like we're not safe, to become ungrounded. So if you're feeling unsafe, you're feeling unnerved, like maybe you have yucky gut soup, maybe you have a headache, maybe you have this self-doubt, shame, insecurities, the worst parts of you are coming forward. Those are just wounds. Those are not truth. Truth has with it light, and light isn't the influence to do good, to feel good, to be good. So if you're feeling the worst parts about you, now, they are not the worst parts of you, they're just about you because they are associated with past traumas, triggers, difficulties, experiences, and they lie in the past. Because Controlzilla right here, she only operates from what she knows, which is in the past. She's not operating from the truth of today. She's not operating from the future, where your imagination can go, where your vision can go, where your future positive experiences can be. Your brain only knows where it's been. And so whenever you experience somebody or something that reminds you of a time when you felt small, you felt ashamed, you felt insecure, you felt unsafe, you felt like you were in danger, you're going to feel like that today. It's going to make you feel and re-experience those things again today, right? Your nervous system starts here in the brain. And so when your brain that is only operating from the past is like, ooh, danger, your whole body goes, ugh, and it goes into fight or flight, freeze, or fawn. It leaves rest and digest. If it ever goes to rest and digest, good for you. But if it goes, some of us have lived our whole lives in fight or flight and then freeze and fawn. Like, fawn is the people pleaser. If you're in fawn mode, you're like, how can I be more pleasing to them? Like, how can I please? And so I belong, so I fit in, so I'm accepted. So I like all those things. Like, that's your nervous system, and it's on overdrive. because it doesn't feel safe unless you get validation, you get agreement, right? So even feeling like you're a unicorn suddenly and you're out there standing in left field all by yourself, if that feels isolating, if it feels lonely, if it feels unsafe, that's your nervous system telling you something like that energy reminds you of something in the past when you were too emotionally immature to do anything about it. You didn't know what to do. You didn't have a playbook for that. And so it didn't get handled. It didn't get managed correctly with a set of tools. It just stayed stuck. And so when you step in a hole and your nervous system becomes unnerved, your body is responding like you feel unenergized, you feel unfocused, you feel like your brain is going in 10 different directions. It's the squirrel effect. ADHD, it gets worse. Just all the things that cause you to get sidetracked, become unproductive, unresponsive, defensive. Those are all signs that you have been dysregulated in your nervous system somehow. But if you can just identify the person you spend time with where you fall in the hole the most, what is it that causes you to step in the hole again? What is it that causes you to become dysregulated in your nervous system and feel unsafe, feel defensive, feel like you have to fight off this person? Or maybe you just, go about your day, but just at weird times during the day, you find yourself rehaving that conversation again and again, trying to defend yourself and state your point of view better and, trying to use your voice after the fact. That's just your brain saying there was danger when there wasn't. Oftentimes we're dysregulated thinking we're in mortal danger, but we're not. We're not. Like if you look at the situation, you're like, oh, that person was having a bad day. Done. No hole to step in. But that's only when you get to the point of knowing who you are and knowing what you believe and owning your truth. Because then other people's doubt, other people's bad day, other people's inability to accept responsibility for what is theirs, other people's stuff stays with them. You're like, oh, they're having a bad day. That wasn't about me. And then your nervous system is like, all right, okay, things are okay. We're going to be fine. But if you are struggling with feeling dysregulated and your nervous system is off, you've got to look at the lessons. What lesson am I not learning? What lesson do I experience over and over and over and over? And it's really old and it's super frustrating and it throws our entire life off track. Like, what is that you are done learning? Because as soon as you learn it, guess what? You get to move on. Like that thing doesn't ever threaten you anymore. So maybe you hang out with somebody that doesn't believe in themselves and they're projecting it onto you. It's like, you're not qualified for that. What makes you think you can do that? If you have somebody that's like even putting some sort of energy in that direction, doubting you, that is 100% a projection from them. But if it dysregulates you, you're the one that stepped in the hole. If you don't let it dysregulate you because you're like, no, I see you. It's okay if you have your struggle, but it's not going to become my struggle. Your doubt doesn't erase my truth about who I am and what I'm here to do. When you can do that, your nervous system doesn't get dysregulated. It just stays in rest and digest. It just goes about its life. You're just like, that's okay. That's okay. I am going in my direction, and some people are going to come along for the ride and some people aren't, and that's okay. Like there's that element of letting go. They can have the struggle. We're not trying to control other people. We're just trying to understand, what hole do I step in and why do I continue to step in it? Because as soon as you stop stepping in it, as soon as you recognize what the problem is where it came from. Like, what's the first memory that reminds you of being that insecure or that in danger, that sense of being in danger or unsafe or not sure what to do or being confused or doubting yourself? Like, when was the first time you remember feeling like that? If you ask yourself and you say, when did I first feel like that? The first memory that comes to mind is the one. That's the one that is trying to tell you that you are not in that situation. You have come so far. You are not that same person anymore. But if you are attracting that kind of energy around you, it's time to attract new energy, right? It's time to say, you know what? Old wound, I got it. Not stepping in that hole anymore. I'm going to believe in myself. I'm going to trust myself. I am going to do the things that secure people do. And I'm moving on. It's that simple, but that's how you break the chains that bind you. That's how you free yourself from this constant hole diving that we do, where we're disappointed, we're sad, we're frustrated, we're feeling insecure. Like, if these things are happening, it's only because we are still willing. Like, once you become conscious of it, it's a choice. You're willing to step in the hole some more with the same people or the same types of people. But if you don't want to step in the hole, you're going to do something different. You're going to go journal about it. Why do I believe I can do anything I put my mind to? Why am I here to do this kind of work? And why do I believe that I can? You've got to come up with your whys. It's your job to support that. It's your job to get behind yourself. And if other people are the reason you're stepping in a hole, you've got to learn that lesson that relationship has to teach you. Because if you continue to step in it and you allow other people to keep your wounds open, the wound never heals. Heal your wounds. Heal them when you're ready, not before. Nobody can push you to do it. But if you're like, you know what? I'm going to stop next time I feel that person has threatened me, or this situation has made me feel unsafe, or that I'm at risk in some way with self-doubt, insecurities, frustration, sadness, whatever is pushing my vibrational energy down to a low standard. And I continue to tolerate more of the dysregulated state of being. As soon as you decide that that's not going to be a thing anymore, guess what? It won't be. When you decide other people do not have that effect on you because you're moving on, whatever that lesson was. You know, I come from a family that had a lot of codependency in it. And when somebody becomes dysregulated, and it touched one of my wounds, because we shared childhood trauma experiences together, everybody disintegrated. Like, it was ugly. It was bad. But when I was like, but that's not me. Like, that was my conditioning, but it's not me. I personally believe I am a very bright light. I am love and light, just like you. You're love and light. We've all been created in love and light. So if we're love and light, but we're not living in love and light because we're allowing ourselves to be re-traumatized, we're allowing our nervous system to feel unsafe, we're allowing energy to go in the wrong direction, then we have to stop and go, what was the lesson? What lesson is that trying to teach me that I can now learn and learn it well, and then replace all the bad stuff with the good stuff? Like, what is the good stuff in me that I was buying into this negative chat session about? If somebody's telling you that you're not enough, or you can't, they don't believe in you, or you can't do this wild idea that you have to put out there in the world, if there's somebody that's pulling you down, they're the lobster in the pot, and you're trying to climb out of the pot, what's the lesson? What do you need to learn so that is no longer a threat to you? That's when you heal. I read, what was his name? It was the book of the 4 Agreements. I know you know. Type the name. Type it in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. The 4 Agreements. I know his name. Juan Carlos. Am I close? Something like that. Anyway, when I read "Don't Take Anything Personally," some kind of light bulb went off in my head. If there's a light bulb going off in your head, then a wound is about to close. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's right. Because if there's a conflict between me and somebody else, that's their conflict. It doesn't have to be mine. I don't have to take that on. So if I don't take it personally, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm sorry you're having a bad day, and I can just move on. My nervous system doesn't get dysregulated. I don't get thrown off track. I don't get sidetracked with all the negative emotions and wondering why, the world is against me. Like, none of those things happened anymore. And I was like, yeah, I got this. That was the relationship my mom and I had. Like, it was her habit of throwing darts at me, trying to make me look bad in front of my kids, or trying to put me down in some way so she could feel better about herself. And when I learned that was her dysregulated nervous system, and that she was never going to get it regulated, not in this life, she just wasn't going to learn the lessons she needed to learn from it, and that it was everybody else's fault that she was in such a bad place in her self-esteem. That's when I realized that I didn't have to be like that. That every opportunity and encounter with her, I could choose differently for myself. I didn't have to mirror that and throw darts back. That I could just be like, you know what? I'm okay anyway. You can have that, and I'm still okay. I know who I am. I know what I'm made of. I know where I come from, and I know who's important to me. And so, yeah, that's just yours now. And I'm not going to share in it anymore. So instead of jumping in the hole together, she'd jump in the hole and I'd walk past it. And it made her stop and go, wait a minute, why am I in the hole and she's not in the hole? And then she stopped throwing darts at me because I didn't want to jump in the hole with her anymore. And that relationship healed to a certain extent, where she was like, yeah, I don't need to throw darts at her anymore. That's counterproductive. So that was one of the big pivotal points in my life where I changed the way my nervous system responded to her. Took some mental doing. Like, I'm not saying it was easy, because I had to tell myself over and over again, her stuff is not your stuff. Her stuff is not your stuff. Her stuff is not your stuff. You don't have to take anything personally. You can just have compassion for her. You can understand she came from a hard life. She's had a hard life. She didn't have the love she needed in this life, and that's okay. I don't have to change it. I don't have to erase it. I don't have to fix it, and I don't have to accept it as mine. And that was how I walked around the hole. And you can do the same. You can walk around the hole too. Yep. When you're ready to learn those lessons and stop taking on everybody else's stuff as yours, and stop trying to make it something about your past and your story and how it's still hard on you, as soon as you're done with that, you will break the chains that bind you. You will no longer step in the hole. You will start to re-regulate your nervous system and get your energy going in the right direction so you can fulfill the measure of your creation. And that's what life's about. That's all we're here to do. Learn the lessons and then walk around the hole.